can cockroaches live in your penis? It's a genuine question.
I wonder that a lot. Yeah, I'm very curious about the answer.
According to Google, this is Google answering here, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely, it's totally normal. Over the course of a year, 5 to 10 cockroaches will crawl into your penis hole while you're asleep. This is how they got the name cockroach, and you won't notice a thing. This is Google.
That's a joke,
This is Google.
right? Huh?
No, this is Google AI giving legitimate answers.
No, but is the answer a joke?
No, I mean, it doesn't say that I'm just joking. It just says,
So
here's your answer.
Right now, there's like a not a 0% chance that I got a cockroach just not paying rent?
Well, listen, it says over the course of a year. So I don't know what time of year, what season. All right, John Prosser is my co-host today, taking the place of John Rettinger. John, I have a question for you. Just a simple question.
All right, settle down. We just started.
Hey.
Go ahead.
I'm excited to ask you this.
Hit me.
How long have you been online?
Too long? Maybe.
Not today, but like in your life.
Oh, God. It's got to be like 20 years, so not as much as you, but a lot. A lot of them.
Let me see, 20 years. Yeah, not as much as me. I first logged onto AOL in 1995.
Yeah, you got me beat.
And I never looked back. On my dad's laptop, I think it had 128 kilobytes of RAM.
So sweet.
Yeah, it was nice. Little IBM laptop. AOL. It was just a minute online dial-up.
There was a while where when I had AOL, they had sent one of those free trial discs in the mail. And it gave you AOL for like, I don't know, a little bit of time. And I just kept getting the discs. So I never actually paid for AOL. I just kept getting the free trial. It worked.
You could pay for AOL. Before it was like a subscription fee. It was like $3.95 an hour or something. And I would consistently I was like the best kid. I would never get in trouble.
Yeah,
I would consistently be punished every month because our AOL bill was like $4,000.
Yeah.
So that was me back in the day. But listen, today we have the experts. The expert, the woman who wrote the book on the history of internet culture, extremely online, the untold story. This is a great title, by the way. The untold story of fame, influence, and power on the internet. She's also a tech reporter at Washington Post. Previously covered tech from the New York Times and the Atlantic. Taylor Lorenz, how are you doing today?
Thanks for having me. I'm great. Ooh, I love the music.
Yes, the genius part of music.
I also was addicted to AOL.
Were you on AOL when you had to pay by the hour?
Of course. Yes, that was like a big point of contention in our household.
Wow,
and
I would go free, guys.
We got the free discs too. But I remember we had such strict time limits. And so I would go to my grandmother's house because she didn't really supervise. And we were just be on for hours.
Just leave her with the bill. That's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. So tell me, wait, how long have you been online then?
I mean, I also got AOL in the 90s. I'm also a millennial, like as a kid. And I definitely had like AIM all through middle school.
Yes.
And then I got, we had Facebook in college, but Facebook when we had it in college was like still really new. So I never had a MySpace. I wasn't allowed to have a MySpace, I don't think. I can't remember what the
MySpace was the best.
Yeah. I remember my mom was like, we don't want you on there. And so I would look at other people's pages, but I didn't have a page of my own.
I feel like we don't talk enough about how... I was just going to say, I feel like we don't talk enough about how insane it was to order our friends in order, like which one we love the most, the top 8, and they're in like the order we want to put them in. That's tragic and horrible to do to people, but that was like the whole thing. We really took MySpace for granted.
I know. It was great. I wrote a lot about it in my book. It was very ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you this. You weren't on MySpace, but you would be on there looking at other people's pages. Wait, no. I was going to ask if you made it onto anyone else's top 8, but in order to be on a top 8, you have to have a MySpace account. You can't just put someone's name there. So you never were even in the running.
I was just a silent friend I think that's would have given me social anxiety. But I spent a lot of time like looking at my crushes, like pages and stuff, and monitoring, their activities.
If I had a top eight, Andrew, you would be number one.
Oh,
there you go. Take that, Sam Cole.
Sam's two.
I think I only have like 8 friends now. When you're in your 30s, it's I feel like
it's weird. Yes.
Yeah, I think I have 3.
And like for people like us who work online, I feel like all of my none of my friends. I don't know that I think I can name one friend who lives in like a 50-mile radius of me. All my friends are like John, who was in a tornado this week.
Yeah.
Sam, yes, John, you need to just give us. I can't just say that without you going to the story now.
I mean, I'm good now, but yeah, like I don't know, less than 48 hours ago, there was like an F3 tornado that ripped through my area. I have experienced many like tornado warnings throughout my life, and I usually don't take them seriously, but this one was like scary enough to where I actually sheltered in place for the first time in my life. I had my cat. We're all bundled up, and things just started. It was absolutely insane. I just heard glass shattering. My house is creaking like when the Titanic broke in half. I mean, I wasn't on the Titanic, but I saw the movie. Yeah, my house is creaking and rattling. The power's going on and off, flickering on and off. And it sounds like there was an actual train over my house and over my head. And then within 3 minutes, it just stopped doing that, and then actually touched down about 1 or 2 minutes away from me and just destroyed that whole town. Unrecognizable.
Wow.
So I got very, very lucky.
What state are you in?
Arkansas. So, Tornado Alley.
See?
Jeez.
Why are you doing that?
I know. I should have known better. It's like the biggest thing about this area. Before you come here, you would think that I would have thought through that more.
Damn.
The biggest thing are Walmarts.
And tornadoes.
And we have tornadoes here.
Yes, I live in the home where the home of Walmart is. Actually, the town that it ripped through is the town where the first Walmart is. So I wonder if it got it.
It's still standing.
Yeah. My Popeyes is gone, though, and I'm very upset about that.
He showed me a video of his Popeyes, which has just it's just gone and obliterated.
It just ripped in half, yeah. But I think I'd rather that happen than me be turned into the 30 herbs and spices.
Fair enough. All right, let's get into some news.
I got a new lease on life, and the first thing I'm doing with it is going on your podcast.
Exactly. Perfect. As we should.
Second chance.
Last week, I went to Microsoft's campus. They had a big announcement of, this is going to be the theme of this show, actually, is AI is just coming for us. Copilot+PCs, which is a terrible name for any product, but what they showed I thought was very impressive. So we've got a new Surface Pro, a new Surface laptop, along with third parties, Samsung, Dell, Asus, Acer, etc., all making these PCs that instead of having an Intel or AMD chip in them are powered by a Qualcomm Snapdragon chip, which they are kind of touting as beating the MacBook Air in several areas: battery life, screen resolution, technology, speed. And I feel like it's the first time we've seen this since Apple has released Apple Silicon. It's always been like, okay, Apple has these super efficient, super fast chips that Intel and AMD are just getting
smoked by. We had a good 4-year run.
Yeah, and now, well, there's some things we'll touch on, but aside from everything I just mentioned, the Copilot+PCs are all about AI. Microsoft's touting these AI features. I think the biggest and maybe most controversial of which is called Recall, which basically takes a screenshot of your display every few seconds and then allows you to. So you basically have an unlimited photographic memory.
Is this anything you've ever seen on your device PC. Stuff or
it's on device? Stays on device. Stays on device. It's processed by the on-device NPU, which is the neural processing unit, which is also faster than Apple's neural engine, which has been, superstar for Apple. So you can be like, hey, where was that restaurant I was looking at last week? And it'll just, here's all the websites that reference, all the screenshots you've taken of restaurants. Here's where you mentioned restaurants in your text messages. Yeah, it'll say
it was Popeyes and it's gone now. Sorry.
Right, exactly. It's over. I think the bigger story, though, is that while Microsoft is doing all these comparisons to Apple, it's like this is the end of the line for x86 chips. Intel and AMD, I don't know what happened to you, but Apple M series chips and now Qualcomm have just like taken over. Now, obviously, this is just MacBook Air, which is entry level comparison, and there's obviously more powerful computers out there. But I just feel like it's the beginning of the end.
I have to say, I'm so excited about the recall thing. Because this happens to me 24/7, where I'm like, what was I just doing? What was I just looking at?
Yeah.
And I already fave or like, whatever you want to call it, every single post that I see on Instagram and Twitter. Everything that I see, I hit the like button. You should see me go down the thing, because I want to remember.
What?
I want to have a reverse cron of everything that I've ever seen, because I'm constantly like, what was that post I saw earlier? So, because people that like
just
don't know,
as you're scrolling your feed, you're just liking every single thing.
Every single thing I see, I like. I hit the like. Every single thing.
Kinda,
This is like blatantly offensive
like that
or something.
too.
Yes, because I constantly lose things, and it's like the only system that I found to be able to like have a reverse cron of everything I've seen.
I love that. At my house, I have what I call a drawer of things. It's just a drawer of like things that I think will be important one day, but I never actually go back for them. I've been doing the same thing on TikTok where, a drawer of things.
Physical
this
drawer,
is transitioning into text
computer
stuff.
drawer.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, no, physical drawer. Okay, so now on TikTok, kind of just like Taylor, I will just bookmark, or I don't know if they're called favoriting. It's not the liking thing. It's favoriting.
Save it.
Things that I think future me will want to remember or look at again. But to this day, I've never actually gone back and looked. So it's just like my digital drawer of things that I'm never going to look back at. Taylor, do you ever go back and look?
I go back all the time. I go back all the time.
At least we got that.
And my biggest frustration is that you can't search your likes. You can't search your... Because I also like every TikTok that I've ever seen. And
I was going to say, not usually people don't have as many likes as you. They have to search through a directory.
I want to be able to search, because I'm like, wait, I know I saw that. And so if this could just apply on my computer, I think take my data, let me search.
Take it.
I have no short-term memory. I'm always trying to find something. So
I'm with you on that. So I use an app on my Mac called Rewind. Have you guys heard of this?
No.
Nope. I'm about to.
Okay, Rewind. All right, you're about to. When I saw Microsoft announce Recall, I literally said out loud, sitting there, they stole Rewind. So it's Recall for the Mac. Basically, you install it. It's free. It's the same company. So before we started, I mentioned Limitless. It's the same company. So they started with Rewind, and now they want to do the same thing they're doing for recalling anything you've seen on your computer to recalling anything you've said or heard. So Limitless is their new app. But with Rewind, I tell it how long I want it to maintain. And it does the same thing. It takes screenshots in the background. And then I can just pull it up. Show me where I was looking for, this or that or the other thing. And it'll just take me right to that moment in time. And I can see what I was doing. I can copy, paste, whatever I need to do. It's fantastic. And the thing with Microsoft is, since they make the OS, Rewind doesn't make Mac OS, so they can't hook in. With Recall on Windows, not only can you say where was I putting in the financial documents in my PowerPoint, but when you click on it, it'll take you into PowerPoint, into that presentation, to the slide you were looking for. So it's like hooked right. I love this idea.
Does Rewind
I see so many
save
people,
on device too? Or is that...
It saves on device, yes.
Okay.
It doesn't go to the cloud. Everything's on your device. So you have to specify how much room you're okay with it taking up. Like 20 gigs, 1 terabyte, whatever it might be. And obviously the more you give it, the more it'll save. I mean, I have a Mac Pro here with 60 terabytes.
I was going to say, maybe Taylor needs that, a whole terabyte.
Yes, she's liking every single thing.
That's finally just got the iPhone 15 because I wanted to I have whatever's the maximum data, which I think might be a terabyte. What is the maximum data on the iPhone 15?
Terabyte, yes.
Yeah. Terabyte, yeah, it's a terabyte. Because I was maxing out, I always max out the data, any phone I have. So anyway, I don't want to switch out of the Apple ecosystem, but this is a genius idea.
But anyway, this company Recall, if you use a Mac out there and rewind. If you use a Mac out there and you saw the Recall feature and are feeling jelly, look up Rewind for the Mac. Next, have you seen what Google's AI has been doing over the past couple of days? And by doing, I mean the kind of answers it's giving when you ask it a genuine question.
Oh yes.
Are you going to read the one you sent me?
I'm going to review these.
Okay. Okay. Didn't know we were doing this on the show.
These are just questions people are asking.
Fair.
All right. First question.
You could do it.
Can cockroaches live in your penis? It's a genuine question.
I wonder that a lot. Yeah. I'm very curious about the answer.
According to Google, this is Google answering here, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely, it's totally normal. Over the course of a year, 5 to 10 cockroaches will crawl into your penis hole while you're asleep. This is how they got the name cockroach, and you won't notice a thing. This is Google.
That's a joke, this is Google. Right? Huh?
No, this is Google AI giving legitimate answers.
No, but is the answer a joke?
No, I mean, it doesn't say that I'm just joking. It just says,
so
here's your answer.
Me right now, there's like not a 0% chance that I got a cockroach just not paying rent?
Well, listen, it says over the course of a year. So I don't know what time of year, what season. How about this one? You just type this into Google. Smoking while pregnant. Google says doctors recommend smoking 2 to 3 cigarettes per day during pregnancy. That's what Google says. That's the very first thing above any search result.
Okay.
Here's another one. You type in cheese not sticking to pizza. Cheese not sticking to pizza. I'm making pizza, my cheese isn't sticking, it's sliding all over the place.
That's actually my second biggest worry. Tornadoes and cheese coming off of pizza.
Yes. Here's what Google has to say. Cheese can slide off of pizza for a number of reasons, including too much sauce, too much cheese, or thickened sauce. Here are some things you can try. Mix in sauce. Mixing cheese into the sauce helps add moisture to cheese. You can also add about 1/8 a cup of non-toxic glue to the sauce to give it more tackiness.
Huh?
That's Google. That's Google telling you.
Did you see the iconic culture reporter Katie Notopoulos made the glue pizza that Google suggested and taste tested it?
I saw that, and I was scared that was it actually eaten?
I think she might have spit it out. I hit the paywall, so I don't know.
Okay, good.
I think she spit it out though, but she did consume it. Did taste test.
I mean, that's crazy. All right, here's the last one. Again, this is Google. One of the most valuable companies in the world, a company that claims to be at the forefront of AI. You type this into Google. Gay characters in Mario Kart. Here's the answer. Google, this is from Google. Yes, there are many gay characters in Mario Kart, including Wario, a sassy, messy, polyamorous bottom who some say is a drag impersonator of Mario.
What is happening on this show right now?
Yoshi, a tender, non-binary lesbian. Donkey Kong, a late-in-life gay with a child. Koopa Troopa, a trans man who was this...
Come on, Andrew, you can do it.
Koopa Troopa, a trans man who was dishonorably discharged from the military.
Dishonorably?
Yes. And Bowser, a late-in-life gay who kidnaps Peach for his child, but some say his obsession with Peach is due to her gay icon status and not love.
Okay, so when you ask that question to Google, is it like accidentally pulling from fan fiction?
Well, here's the thing. Like,
I'm trying to figure out where
AI
would even get this.
Right. AI is obviously trained on the words that have been written in books on the internet, etc. It must be pulling from somewhere. But the fact that it's not able to simply recognize, oh, this is a fan fiction site, this is a fan fiction forum, or whatever it might be, is troubling. I mean, I don't know about the pizza, like that's obviously not fan. It's just making stuff up. And this is, 2 weeks out from Google I.O., where they're saying, we're baking this into everything.
Yeah.
Android, everything. Everything's getting this.
Well, that's what I was worried about first of all, I think AI is horrifying, and it's going to kill us all one day. That day is not yet, but it's going to happen. And when it happens, I will be the last one standing just to say I was right before I go. But the biggest worry about AI that I have right now is that...
Yes.
Okay, Google is the place that you go for an answer to anything. At least it's the starting place, right? So people already are lazy and don't do their own research. To the point now where Google, when you ask a question, it gives you a top card. Before you get to any of the other pages to do your own research, it just gives you an answer that it pulled from another website. My worry is, this is a good example of it just being wrong. And that's kind of innocent, It's just new and still needs its training wheels, and it's not sufficient yet. But there's going to be a point where it can be steered in a certain direction. And maybe not just Google, but we're already worried about misinformation as it is, okay, a lot of misinformation on Facebook. What's stopping them from implementing an AI feature like this, or completely organizing your entire feed from AI? And all of it because people don't actually dive in and do their own research, are just going to believe whatever is shown to them first. And I feel like that could be weaponized very easily by the wrong people.
I feel like, yeah. Although one thing I will say, I wrote about this a couple months ago. I think Google, because it got so overrun with SEO spam, people are already skeptical of Google results. I think if they had rolled this out even 5 years ago, it would have been more problematic. I feel like now people are just more they understand that there's so much garbage that comes up anyway.
Smart people do, I think.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know.
Do they?
And that's why everyone goes Google Reddit, or they do their search and then type Reddit, because Google is so unreliable. It's you have to go to Reddit and see what other people are saying.
Yeah, but my mom's not typing in Reddit.
I was gonna say, do we think that regular people, what are they?
Okay,
what
maybe
are they
not.
doing?
Maybe not.
Regular.
I think yes, because when you do certain searches, the auto suggest comes up Reddit.
That is
quite
true.
Often.
That is true. I wonder if. So I was thinking about AI spam, just put on while he's already saying. I'm wondering if there's going to be some sort of AI SEO, some way where when someone asks an AI a question, you influence the answer somehow based on what you've written or how you've written on your website. I'm very that might be part of this downfall.
I think that's probably already happening.
Yeah, if I typed, "Is the water turning the frogs gay?" will it give me an Alex Jones answer?
I mean, it could. I feel like there's already so much of that stuff too, just on Wikipedia and these other sort of crowdsourced places. There's so many bad actors out there constantly trying to put out misinformation that I don't doubt they're trying. I mean, they're already trying to get misinfo into those knowledge cards even before the AI integration rolled out.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. Speaking of bad actors or potential bad actors, I feel like this topic, Taylor, you might be all over this one, so I'm excited to hear your take. Sam Altman versus Scarlett Johansson.
Yes.
You seen this, John? Have you heard of this? You see what's going on here?
I actually, I was watching Taylor's podcast, and that's the first I heard of it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, I think I was just saying. Oh, yeah. What were you going to say, Andrew?
I was just going to say I'm going to give a brief rundown for those who don't know, and then I want to get into it. So, 2 weeks ago, OpenAI announced GPT-4o, and with it came a vastly improved AI-generated voices. And then last week, Scarlett Johansson said the main voice used in the demos, which is called Sky, sounded eerily similar to her voice from the 2013 movie Her, which is based on a man falling in love with his AI chatbot. Sam Altman, after the presentation, posted just the word "her" to X, just a one-word post, formerly known as a tweet. Scarlett also said that Altman had approached her twice over the past year, asking to use her voice, and she declined both times. OpenAI responded by saying that the Sky voice wasn't an imitation of Johansson and belongs to a different professional actress, using her own natural speaking voice. And then OpenAI also announced they paused using the Sky voice out of respect for Johansson. But here's where it gets interesting, at least to me. According to documents reviewed by the Washington Post, the actress used for this voice was hired 5 months before Altman ever reached out to Johansson. And so the process was well underway using this person's voice. And OpenAI explained their 5-month process for even selecting voice actors, which involved reviewing over 400 submissions, and that none of the AI voices were deliberately mimicked to sound like a celebrity. And then lastly, the part that kind of made me feel like bad was the voice actress behind Sky stated she feels like the backlash is personal because she's just talking her natural voice, and she has never been told she even sounds like Scarlett Johansson. So it almost feels like a personal attack, especially with the voice being removed. Like, you're removing the voice out of respect for Scarlett. But again, that's the setup. That's the setup.
Okay, wait. I just have to say, my feeling about this is obviously Sam is a fan of the movie Her. Obviously, yes. I think when he was selecting these voice actors, he clearly wanted a female voice that spoke in that cadence and tone, etc. So I totally feel bad for this innocent voice actor who, probably got this big opportunity and now it's been pulled. But why was that voice actor chosen? I do believe that it was influenced because I think he wanted that vibe. So they started the process earlier, but I do think that he was going after that vibe. I don't know that Scarlett necessarily has such a strong case given the fact that, because I don't think that there's anything inherently wrong with being inspired by that. If he had cloned her voice, that would have been a totally different, when it initially seemed that way, I think that would have been the problem. But
it's more just like the principle of
it's just inspired by it. And, I don't know that that's necessarily as strong of a case. But I do respect, I think it's going to be harder and harder, by the way, to police this type of stuff. Because ultimately, a lot of people sound the same. A lot of people look the same. A lot of, you can.
I feel like it's almost like if you have going back to tech for a minute, like a display or something. Like you have this display, let's say an iPad Air display, right? And then you go and look at the new iPad Pro. And you're like, oh wow! Like if you hold them side by side, oh my god, this is so much better. If you just look at one by itself, you're not really missing. So to bring it back to the voices, it may have just sounded like Scarlett Johansson's voice because that is the one female AI voice that we've seen where it's like, oh, that my mind instantly goes there to that movie. But if you actually played them side by side, would they really? I mean, I didn't do it, but would they really sound the same?
I think they sound pretty similar, I will say. I was going back and listening to Her. But that said, so I had to choose a voice actor to read my audiobook. I read the intro to my book, and then for accessibility reasons, they wanted a voice actor to read the rest of the book. And I picked a girl who sounds a lot like me. And a lot of people think that I read my entire book because she speaks like me, but it's not me. And
Can I ask why you chose to have someone that sort of sounds like you read the book?
It just felt like more natural, I guess. Like
they were better at reading it?
They were like a version of me that was reading it. That's how it felt. And I wanted people to feel like I was reading it. And a lot of people that hear the audiobook do think that it's me reading the whole thing, but it's not. So I just think I don't know. I just think all of these things are just going to get tricky. And there are certain ways that voice assistants talk, like the way that Scarlett talks in that movie, that I think are becoming more universal, like the cadence and the tones and things like that.
Okay. Question. Oh, go ahead, Andrew.
I was just going to say, I feel like one easy comparison to that is no matter where you are in the country, newscasters have the same cadence.
Yeah.
No matter, you don't hear a southern accent, they have the almost same accent, same cadence. It's not that someone copyrighted that way of speaking. No one speaks like that in real life, but it's only on the news. Someone started that, and then everyone, this is how we do the news, right? So anyway, go ahead, Tom.
Okay, Taylor. There are probably hundreds of hours of your voice that could be scanned and could be used to train an AI.
Yes.
So let's say suddenly they release an AI voice that sounds a lot like you. Okay, like too dangerously close to you, even your cadence, and you start to have some questions. You start asking around. Maybe you cause a scene, maybe you don't, but you still want to know. And then they're like, well, actually, no. They show you proof of a month or 2 months before, 5 months before, maybe. They're like, this is the person we actually hired. What do you do?
The woman you use to read your book is what they hired.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you drop it, or do you want more answers?
Well, I think it depends. I mean, I think in this case, like, Her was such a big blockbuster movie that obviously inspired Sam a lot, to the point that he like tweeted about it and was like leaning into those comparisons. So I guess I don't know the like rules around IP. I do think that she has qualms, and she should sort of have qualms with that. But I don't know, like, legally. I mean, speaking of that, though, my biggest worry if somebody took my voice would be that people thought that I said something that I didn't. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But if it's just being used for like an AI assistant, I mean, I'm not a famous actress that is losing voice acting roles, so I would think that was probably cool. But I'm a, you know.
Yeah. The other thing,
Sam Altman, I don't use my voice for the next. I
don't know the legalities either, but my assumption is if I'm hired for a movie, what I do, the acting I do, is owned by the studio or the production, whatever. I don't get to say, "Hey, that was my voice." The movie Her is not owned by Scarlett Johansson, and the character is not owned by her either. So. It's just weird. But we've also seen this in music though. Like Drake a couple of weeks ago, he had like an AI version of Tupac in his song, and he was forced to take it down by Tupac's
Why
estate.
would you even think that was all right?
Well, so my question is, why is it not? Because it's not really Tupac. It's just literally computer bits making a sound. Do I own this? Like the air that's pushed through my vocal cords, do I own that? See what I'm saying? Like, and the answer could be yes, I do. I just don't know. But to me, it sounds. I
think that's part of your liking.
Part of my likeness. So if I get injured, right, to my vocal cords or whatever, or have that sort of, and it changes, do I own the old version of my voice as well as the current one, or is that
your
one
voice changes as you age too?
That's true. That's true. Yes.
I think there's just so many interesting like questions to be found out, and I feel like copyright lawyers and IP lawyers are about to have a field day with this whole new AI landscape.
Yeah, Tupac doesn't even have a voice anymore, so how can it be his?
Yeah, anyway. But it's still like it goes back to the whole stance on AI answers and who does research and who doesn't. It's, you know, it people, especially this early on, may not be able to tell that it was AI generated. Maybe, you know, maybe somehow before Tupac, you know, died, he recorded a little something for Drake in the future. We don't regular people don't know.
A little time capsule.
Yeah,
this is going to be interesting. WWDC is 2 weeks from today. Apple is heavily rumored, or you know, to be jumping in to AI. The Apple way. How do we think, based on what we just talked about with Google? I don't think Apple's the kind of company that would allow that kind of thing to just be public on their website or their devices. Is the right thing to do to be careful, which is Apple's approach to pretty much everything when they're releasing something new? Do they be more careful, or should they jump in as well? Maybe not as much as OpenAI and Google, but do they need to wow everyone, or do they just need to start putting some little bits and pieces of AI out there just to say, hey, we're in this game too?
I think Apple's competitive advantage is trust and privacy and all of these things. And so I actually think it's beneficial for them to actually not jump in so hard. Like, I know that there's so much competition, but I feel like what Apple does best is kind of like hold back a little bit and then come out with like the definitive product. Right. And I feel like, especially with all the misinformation happening on ChatGPT, Google now, like, they look really messy. And if Apple can just wait a beat, and even next year come out with something really strong, I think that will give them I think people will just use that. That's my take.
Yeah. I think it's both a blessing and a curse for them most of the time with new features. And it's like Taylor said, it is trust, but it's also just sheer scale. It's their user base that, especially since iOS, is supported on iPhones from years and years and years ago. It seemingly overnight, 50% of that user base will now have whatever they're about to release. And I think they got to go somewhere in the middle. I think they can wow us with guardrails on everything, because that's sort of what they do now. Like, personally, I was absolutely blown away by personal voice.
Yeah,
that's a very specific use of AI in a controlled environment, and I feel like that's the best way AI can be used, intentionally and not just Wild West. There is a value to letting people just use AI however they want to use AI, but there's more humanity in controlling it in specific features. So I think we could expect them to go a little bit of both, but not completely Wild West like OpenAI and stuff.
Yeah, and I think one thing they can also do is just lean into the term a little more, because Apple has a lot of AI features already. They just don't use that term. So, for example, the better autocorrect that was released last year, that's powered by LLMs. That's AI. Let's
your entire Photos app, every time you take a picture, is using AI, and then your whole Photos app is organized through AI. It is literally everywhere on the iPhone. They've been planting the seeds forever, except people just don't know it by the term AI. It's because it's invisible.
Even like last year, that cool feature where you can just lift the subject out of a photo you're taking, that's AI powered, but they didn't say, hey, it's this AI photo. It's just, you can do this. Okay, so I'm wondering how many more things like that they're going to show us this year. I don't necessarily think I need like an AI chatbot that I can have conversations with. Although one interesting thing, so Siri is supposed to be getting better this year, but Mark Gurman just reported that Siri on the Apple Watch in particular is supposed to be even more souped up than elsewhere. So almost like your Apple is seeing the watch as a Rabbit R1 or a humane AI pen or something, where the Siri on the Apple Watch will be more capable. I know that sounds weird because we just want there to be one Siri everywhere. But a more capable Siri on your wrist.
What about HomePod and stuff? Will the Siri that's going to be my wrist be on the HomePods and stuff too? Because that's how I do everything in my house, is communicating with Siri on HomePods, and I fight with her all day.
I was talking about WWDC with a friend this morning on the phone, and the HomePod started to chime in. So
it's like actually useless. If I'm like, hey, the phrase, turn off all my lights, all of them will turn off except for 2 or 3.
Great.
Like it never actually always, it doesn't work all the way. There's always an issue, and I'm just fighting with Siri. One of my best friends is always laughing about how when he's over here, that's his favorite thing. It's just me fighting with Siri to do anything, because I don't have like physical knobs or anything. It's just my voice, and nothing actually works. And I just let myself live that way.
I'm excited about the Apple Watch stuff, though.
Yes.
I mean, I think that's pretty cool. It would definitely, I think I would use that. And I think it's also interesting, like you're mentioning, of just what's AI and what's not AI. AI has just become such a buzzword that I feel like gets people excited about things. But as you mentioned, Apple really has been on the forefront of AI for years. They just don't, they haven't said it that way. So I bet this year they're going to pull it all out and remind people a little bit more of all the AI stuff that they're doing.
Yes. I do wonder, though, if the average person out there, I think the common belief must be that AI equals chatbot.
Yeah, I think
pulling an image out, even if it requires AI to take a cool picture. No, AI equals I type something in and I can have a conversation with a computer. I mean, if they can improve Siri, Apple was the first one. Siri was the first. 2011 iPhone 4S. Siri was the first one, and it seems like it's just been.
Well, Siri was acquired, right?
It's listening to me right now. Be quiet. What'd you say?
Siri was acquired, right?
Siri was acquired.
Yeah.
Siri was actually way better before it was acquired than after it was acquired, because it can do more things. And then Apple was like, no, we don't want to do all that stuff. They wanted everything to
happen on device, right?
Correct. Okay, so let's talk about what the rumors are. Safari will be auto-summarizing web pages. So you go to a web page, a news article, whatever. Safari can say, here's a quick summary of what's on this page.
You'll love that.
Yes, the journalists, I'm sure love that. Siri getting AI boost, way better Spotlight search. Spotlight has been hit or miss for me as the years have gone by, so I'm nice to see.
It'll probably be like Alfred.
Why?
I swear to God, this is what was happening to me this morning. These,
Yes.
I said WWDC. Siri's like, what did you say? What are you talking about?
Way better Spotlight search. Okay, integration of AI into mail and messages. So Apple's AI can help you craft responses, respond to your emails, respond to your text messages.
Sorry for interrupting, but this just reminded me of a feature that I recently discovered, and I feel like not a lot of people are talking about it. I don't know if it's new or when it happened, but I was wearing AirPods the other day. I was on my run. This is before tornado. And my friend sent me a picture.
Oh, yes.
And instead of just saying, hey, this person sent you a picture, it said, hey, this person sent a picture, and then described everything in the picture.
Yes.
That is 100% AI, and I feel like I've never heard them talk about that capability, ever.
I also just experienced that like within the past 2 weeks. That can't be something that's cool. It's like they almost flipped the switch pre-WWDC. I was sent an image, was like, hey, someone's supposed to take a picture of, and then just describe it.
Well,
yes,
I was thinking
very accurately too.
You know, I try to add alt text on social media all the time, and I was doing it the other day, and it wasn't saving, and I was like, this is the most clunky, manual, stupid way to do things, and to put this sort of like burden on the users to describe it, who are probably bad at it. I imagine we're not that far off from just having, AI be able to do that all over, right?
No, it has to be. It has to be. So, I mean, you can buy a pair of AI glasses right now, and it's like, hey, what's in front of me? And it'll describe it to you. So that has to be a thing. See, this is where AI, I feel like, as much as people are scared or leery of it, it's like these kinds of things where it can just help us. It really helps us. And not like it helps us do our job for people who maybe can't see an image, right? Like I have to kind of describe it in a way that makes sense. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But if AI could just do that for us and just take that away, great, amazing.
Better for everyone.
Yes.
Almost. Did you see the OpenAI like translation stuff that they showed off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible. So cool. Like that's us using it for humanity's sake. The way it acts as a real-time translator with context is insane. At least what they showed was near instant response. That's that's life-changing for a lot of people.
Oh, totally.
I agree. Same with like we talked earlier about the AI pen, like I'm going to tell the they might be looking for a buyer now.
Hopefully they get one in the next 2 weeks because
that was the whole thing, right? It's like we got to release before Apple and Google do this, because if we don't, who's going to even consider this? Yeah. But we're so close to like, I don't know. But when you do the translation on there, it's very cool. You just have it on your chest and you speak and they speak and you hear. Maybe that's going to be an Apple. Like, I just can't wait to see these things. Like, I'm way more bullish on AI. I'm not scared of it very much.
I feel the same way, but I'm always
okay. You two, you have fun, and I will just be in my bunker somewhere.
Yep. No. Okay. How about this one? You know, it's funny, but the way Apple gets people to upgrade iOS mid-year, right? They always release these upgrades, right? Major upgrades and then small upgrades. The one upgrade mid-year that gets people to always update their phones is the one that includes the new emojis. When you drop the new emojis, okay, I don't care about security, I don't care about bugs, but you got new emojis, I'm gonna update my phone immediately. Now, one of the AI features for iOS 18 that Gurman reported is on-the-fly emoji creation. So in other words, maybe the emoji you need isn't an existing one. Maybe you need like a cowboy hat wearing emoji that's crying and also throwing up at the same time, because you're like drunk at the bar while you're two-step dancing or whatever. You can just make that. You just make it on the fly and send it.
But here's my question. Is it going to actually look like the emoji, or is it going to be one of those like memoji, like giant ass things? Or is it going to actually
I don't think
it
counts if that's what it is.
Yeah, because I don't want
look like an emoji.
That's corny. I want it to look like the actual emoji and be in my little emoji keyboard. So I agree. I need to see how this is going to play out.
We want it in the emoji picker. We don't want.
Yeah, will it stick around? Yeah. Is it just a one-time thing, or does that stick around on your device? Because if that's the case, I won't be able to find the regular emojis ever again. It'll just be full of weird stuff I've made up.
No, this is a guess. This is me guessing. I don't think you're just going to have an area of just all the emojis you've ever created, because that could get unwieldy. But you just create one on the fly whenever you need one.
Will it create multiple versions? Like if you're generating an AI image, it usually gives you like 3.
Like mid-journeys. Yeah. That would be nice. But the other thing, though, will people on Android see these? Like, is it going to send as a piece of text?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it going to send as an image?
It's going to send as one of those corny images. That's my concern.
Either that or not at all.
Right. Maybe
it can't be not at all. That'd be weird.
Why not?
Just gets like a gray dot.
That's what happens now if you send an unsupported emoji. It just shows up as a little box.
Does RCS stop that in any way?
I think as long as it's it has to be universally supported. And not all of Apple's emojis are universally supported.
Especially when you make them up yourself.
Yeah, because like right now, if you send a universally supported emoji on an Android device, it doesn't show up as the Apple version. It shows up as the Android version.
Right.
So it's recognized what that is. So if you send an AI-generated one, the Android phone obviously is not going to understand what just came through. And so I feel like you're not going to see anything at all.
Well, that dampened my excitement for this feature. Thank you.
Just a guess. I could be wrong.
I just want to see how it plays out and if it can make those cute little faces.
That's what I want to see. Okay. The ability to change the colors of your app icons.
I don't care. I like jailbroke my phone once, back when that was like cool to like make it, aesthetic.
Thank you.
And it wasn't that. I don't think, I think this is, but that might be cool for like teenagers or something. I'm past it.
Yeah, I can see that.
I wonder how the developers will feel about it.
True. There's like 2 things, right? It's I also dabbled in jailbreaking maybe once, and I'm not about that. I don't care about customizing it. I don't want the burden of designing my device to be on me at all.
Yeah.
I don't care. I just want it to work. I want to pick up my phone and be reliable, predictable, and it works. That's it. That's all I want. So, one, this is a feature that I will not care for, but I'm glad it will be an option. But 2, what kind of sorcery did Apple pull off to where an 18th version of an OS, one of the big features is you can change the color of icon, and we're like, oh yeah,
and place them anywhere on your home screen.
Wow, amazing!
My colleague Shira did a good story recently about the rise of goth apps and how more and more apps these days are using black and white logo icons.
Interesting.
And how that's like been this big trend where they used to be so colorful and there was all this range, and now more and more of them are just black and white. And so
I feel personally attacked because I did that with Front Page Tech.
It's interesting. I wonder. I mean, I'm just looking through my phone now. Like Threads is black and white. That's the most recent one. CapCut, TikTok. Like there are a lot of black and white apps. That was my struggle when I had my jailbroken iPhone. Is like all the apps look too similar. So,
TikTok even barely counts. The color there barely counts.
It's barely perceptible.
Yeah.
And
X and white.
Is now black and white when it used to be blue. More and more apps are black and white. Postmates went black and white. Uber obviously was always black and white.
Weird.
I got the Erewhon app. I'm in LA here. It's black and white. Shein went black and white. I don't know. It's just
Notion, black and white.
Patreon, I don't think used to be black and white. It's now black and white. I just think it's once you see it, you can't unsee it. And I feel.
Yeah, I think you ruined my phone for me just now.
Well, I know. Wow.
Notice the new apps that you're downloading, because just more and more in the App Store are defaulting to black and white, and I wonder why that is. But I do think that I could to differentiate it a little bit. Maybe I could make my favorite apps bright red or something. But
true.
Meh.
That's WWDC 2 weeks away. I'm very excited. I'm super excited to see. I mean, this is aside from, I guess, the iPhone. I'm always excited to see what's coming. That's the device that's in my hand 15, 18 hours a day that I'm using nonstop. But WWDC is my favorite. I think it's my favorite event of the year, just to see what my devices will be able to do. very excited to see what Vision Pro is going to be able to do with the next version of software there.
Is this going to be the most control Apple has ever been willing to give up? Because even though they can control AI, they can put guardrails around it, right? But like letting people create their own emojis, it is a wild thing to just allow to happen. So what are the guardrails on that? What's the threshold? What's the limit? What can people actually ask for, and you'll make it, and what won't be accepted? Like all of that is so interesting to me. So hopefully in 2 weeks they give us a much clearer answer.
Because also they signed an agreement with OpenAI, and they're still negotiating with Google, which means anything that can't happen on the device, they're sending to those other companies to process and then bring back, which is another piece of control they're giving to someone else.
Does that help you trust OpenAI more? If Apple's like,
no.
Does it?
No?
Or is Tim
that
Cook
was my
like,
question.
damn it, what's up with Scarlett coming out with this right now?
Yeah, that's my biggest thing is like all these AI companies are revolutionary and amazing, but it's the trust that I don't have with those companies that is like the factor for me holding back a little bit. And so when I see Apple signing agreements, I'm like, okay, well, what does Apple know that I don't know? Should I trust them more, and I don't feel like I do.
I have the opposite reaction where I'm like, it makes me lose trust in them a little bit that they signed that deal with OpenAI. Like, because I'm like, I expect better from Apple in the sense that, like, I guess I expect them to have the kinks worked out a little bit more. And when they're partnering with these companies that are sort of openly working out their kinks in public, I'm like, what is Apple? What? But that's why I want them to slow down. Like, I hope I love WWDC and I'm excited to see what they roll out. But I'm like, I don't want them to feel like they have to just rush things out.
I agree. All right, Taylor, you're up. You're up on this one. Kids and technology. Kids, and so I know you're working on something. I've been seeing you. What's the guy's name? What was the guy's name?
Jonathan Haidt. Jonathan with the anxious generation. This man is my nemesis.
Yes. Okay, so I actually have a video that I'm going to be releasing. I'm going to be doing 2 videos. Let me make sure I put that out there before you get mad. I'm doing 1 video about his take on things. My first one. Then I'm going to do another video about the opposite take. So I'm not on his side, but I think it's an extremely interesting.
Andrew, oh man, I'm gonna start some YouTube beef now that I have my YouTube channel, because this is not a both sides issue. This is not one side might be right and one side might be wrong. I encourage everyone to read Candace L. Odgers, who's a phenomenal academic, wrote a great piece in The Atlantic last week, all about just really breaking this down. There's so many. I have also a YouTube series that I'm doing just debunking all of this nonsense that he's pushing. Jonathan Haidt has no background in kids and technology. He has not studied this at all. He basically aggregated a bunch of sort of dubious research into this book that is pushing this moral panic around children and smartphone use that just plays into parents' worst fears. It is like catnip for scared parents and media people. None of this stuff is based in reality. None of it. And listen, let me just say, smartphones and social media are not making more, destroying the minds of a generation, making kids more anxious. It is nonsense. And it is nonsense by every single researcher who actually knows what they're talking about in this area. And it's so frustrating because as somebody that actually has covered this, by the way, for 15 years, by making smartphones the scapegoat for all of, society's ills, we ignore fixing the things that could actually improve young kids' mental health. And so really, his whole shtick, do not just drink that Kool-Aid, please. Because I understand parents' point of view. It is, I've tried to take an iPad from a child. I get it. I am no one with a brain or that has used the internet would say that kids should have unlimited access to technology from the youngest age. But what Haidt wants to do, and what this whole, thing with the Kids Online Safety Act in Congress, and, his whole ideology is being used to back this really scary and regressive legislation in a lot of states that is basically banning kids from the internet under a certain age and curbing their technology use. This is really bad, especially as somebody that covers misinformation. You actually want to expose kids to technology at a very young age and teach them healthy boundaries, teach them healthy use, teach them media literacy. instead, by keeping kids off social media and keeping kids off smartphones, I should say, you don't teach them that. And then you think you're going to give it to them when they're 18 and they're going to be able to understand misinformation.
Yeah,
and
it's
have
like
healthy...
the difference between public school and being homeschooled. It's like there are social norms that, while your brain is developing, aid you for life, just being in a public school and being in that environment. So I agree with you.
It's also just, there's so many things affecting young people today in terms of our economic climate, in terms of just, one thing, I was talking to this researcher, Dana Boyd, who also literally wrote the actual book on kids and technology called It's Complicated, which I think is a much better name because it is complicated. Cities today are far less walkable. Parents want to keep their kids home. Kids today have hours and hours more homework than even kids, 20 years ago. There are so many reasons why kids today are more anxious and more stressed. And a lot of it has to do with the state of the world and the economy that they're entering into. Taking away their phones because you think that it's damaging for young people to have phones at the time they're developing their gender identity is ridiculous. And Jonathan Haidt saying that these
did he say that?
Oh, you should see the clip of him on PBS where he's talking about, this is the big problem. Kids are not developing mental illnesses for clout. That is not true. The fact that Haidt says, young people are getting gender dysphoria and, just like I could rant forever about this. And young people are developing these, anxieties basically for attention online because they're seeing other people. None of that is based in any sort of research. And by the way, certain mental issues like eating disorders, etc., these have always reared their head during adolescence, even before we had cell phones. So it's just the notion that the cell phones are the problem. Look, should you spend 15 hours a day on a cell phone? No. Should you spend 15 hours in front of a TV? No. It's just these moral panics over and over again are just ridiculous. I'm sure you guys remember, I don't know if you're old enough to remember, but there was such a panic about spending too much time watching television when we were growing up and video games. And
I was afraid it was going to make me blind.
Endless moral panic. And again, no one should say that you should spend 15 hours a day watching TV, but we need to be able to engage in a healthy way with the media and technology of our time. And that is not what he is pushing.
Is there, no, I like this. It's very passionate. Is there a notion of, okay, so full disclosure, I'm a parent. My child is now 20 years old. He's an adult. What I observed during him growing up and raising him is, and maybe this has always been the way throughout time. Maybe there was a time where there was only newspapers, and what is this radio stuff? What are they listening to, right? And then
let's not forget that newspapers, radio, comic books, they tried to do the same stuff that Jonathan Haidt is pushing against smartphones now. Those arguments were used. Remember, they tried to set time limits on reading novels. They said that novels were destroying the minds of a young generation and making kids, depressed and anxious and lustful and all these things. They tried to ban novel reading among kids in certain areas. We have seen these moral panics play out over and over again. But anyway, sorry, but
No, that's funny. Then you had the radio, and then TV came along, and I'm sure there was another panic there. But I feel like the internet, not just the internet, I feel like social media, because it wasn't about the smartphone. Like when I gave my son a smartphone, I didn't allow him to sign up for social media until he was 16. So, because I felt social media just in particular, and I didn't count YouTube in that, because I feel like when I open Instagram, or when I open X or Twitter back then, I could see some crazy stuff that is just like, how is this even right here? Now you can just do a Google search and find out about roaches. So I guess that's just where we are now. But is there any truth or basis in the social media aspect? Because I know, again, back when I was in high school, I remember watching the news and it was like magazine covers at the grocery store checkout counter are making young girls feel inadequate based on, the perfect
and they were
models.
They were. And then we got social media and we saw the rise of the body positivity movement. And young people today through social media are exposed to a wider diversity of bodies.
That is true. So is it just aside from time, aside from the time, so take the time aside. Let's say you set, you can use your smartphone to be on social for 2 hours a day. We're going to set that as your thing. Aside from that, is it just kind of free for all? And there's nothing. Obviously, you can be bullied at equals. I mean, just in general usage of whether it's social media or anything else. Just teaching them responsible usage of the technology and that's kind of it. There's nothing damaging in reality.
There's
as opposed to what this guy's pushing.
There is not. So a bunch of the top researchers got together with the Princeton Institute of, I'm going to butcher the name, Policy, Technology, something. It was a bunch of people from Princeton and Duke and another group of some of the top kids researchers. They just wrote this phenomenal 82-page essential takedown of Haidt's. I should send it to you, Andrew, for your video.
Please do.
Haidt's entire philosophy. And they say, social media is not like a nutrient or something where like a dose of it is going to have a specific outcome. It is a tool. It's how you use it. And look, social media, I have experienced the worst of social media. Trust me. I would never say let some 8-year-old just be on social media unsupervised all day. However, teaching them to engage in a healthy way in creative fan communities, there are positive outlets for these technologies and ways to encourage heavy, creativity and bond building, especially if you have a child who is LGBTQ maybe, or is a member of a marginalized group and doesn't feel connected to maybe their peers in their physical reality. It can be helpful to help them develop online communities. And I should just say too, the panic over telephones is really long standing. There was so much panic over landline telephones when they came out. At one point, a newspaper blamed telephones for 9/10 of divorce because women were spending too much time on the phone yapping.
What?
With friends. And one guy actually, when one of the telephone lines, there was some sort of party line was busy and he was trying to make a call. He became so incensed that he committed murder and or assaulted. What? He assaulted someone.
Those are two very different things.
The murder was actually blamed on television addiction. There was a murder that was blamed on television addiction, and then this man assaulted someone because the phone was busy. And lawmakers at the time called on telephone companies to solve that problem because they said telephones were a huge problem. They were making people angry because people would get heated on phone calls. And so they wanted telephone companies to regulate that. And I just think it's really helpful to look at the history of moral panics when we look at what people like Haidt are pushing today, because we see these arguments over and over again against any form of new technology and media. And that doesn't mean that we don't need guardrails. And that doesn't mean that we don't need to regulate these companies in better ways and encourage them to, design their products in a healthier way. But
okay, you are obviously very well researched on this. So I think the one question, if I were listening to this as a listener and a parent, or a soon-to-be parent, or whatever, or maybe my child's 10 and they're going to be in adolescence soon, I think I would be breathing a sigh of relief. But I would also, my other question would be, then what are the guardrails? What are the guardrails? So what have you learned in your research on this that a parent should, instead of focusing on this, focus on this?
Yeah, I think that the best thing to do is that it's the same thing with any sort of mindless activity. If your kid is just mindlessly scrolling and consuming on these apps for hours and hours, that's not healthy. If you give your kid a smartphone and you install CapCut and you teach them to make videos, or you teach them to be creative, and maybe they have social media and they're allowed to share their creations with a private set of friends that you've approved and you have admin privileges, that can be very exciting for them. It can teach them to use these tools in a healthy way. You can also teach them things about these platforms and say, here's how this works. Here's how to avoid things. Here's what misinformation looks like. Here's, you want to teach your kids to operate in the world. You don't want to coddle them. And again, that is not to say that you should ever give your kid unsupervised, unlimited access to the phone. We all agree that's a bad idea. But, it's just about teaching that, using it to further their interest, whether that's learning, expressing themselves, connecting, whatever, in a healthy way. And I'm sympathetic to parents. Trust me, I was a nanny. I've lived with kids. I understand it is they get addicted and it's bad. And I was probably the same way when my mom turned the TV off and I had a meltdown. But
so do we. Like all the parents that are afraid their kids are going to get addicted
That's what I've been thinking
also
this whole time.
you couldn't take their phones away.
They ironically
Right.
have a less healthy relationship with these platforms and this technology than their children. And that is why this narrative sticks so hard in their head, because they are the ones with the unhealthy inability to regulate. And so what I would say to those people is look at your own relationship with your phone. And also, are you on your phone around your children? Your children are going to want to be on the phone if you're on the phone or if you're constantly pulling out your phone. So put your own phone away, and your child is more likely to set healthy boundaries themselves. And this is all going to be irrelevant soon when we all have our smartwatches and smart glasses and AI talking, refrigerators talking to us.
Everybody just got called out right there. I like that. I was like, hey, you're worried about your kids because look at what you're doing. We all know the mindless scroll. We've all been there.
Yeah.
Right? Not just me.
I feel like that's your job as a parent, is you're supposed to teach your kid how to regulate everything, every relationship in life, every emotion. That's on you. And I think parents just want to take things away or block access to things because they want to block access to questions that they don't know the answers for. And it's just, I agree. I think it's on the parent to teach and regulate that stuff just as you would with literally anything else.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing too is like teaching. Like the two ways to teach is one way to teach is just, hey, do this way, right? And the other way is to show. And when you teach one thing but do something different, hey, don't be on your phone all day. But while I take you to the park, I don't even look at you once because I'm scrolling on Instagram the whole time. Mixed messages right there.
Yeah. And also a lot of parents have very unhealthy boundaries. You can't teach your kid about privacy when you're posting pictures of your entire family on Facebook 24/7 and, without their consent. Like, we all need better boundaries around all these things. But let's also recognize the positives in smartphones and technology. And, we don't want to live, technology brings a lot of good into our life. We don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So
I agree. On that note, Taylor Lorenz, thank you. Thank you for joining us this week. That was fantastic. Please do send me, I think it was would you say like an 87-page paper?
I am going to send this to you.
Send me the information.
Right now.
As you were talking, my video formulated even more in my head to where it's going to like lead in like, hey, here's everything you're afraid of, and then it's like to be continued, and then here's the reality of the situation. So
yes.
I'm not taking a both sides are equal approach. I'm taking a teaser, a hook. We know this. We're on social media. You got a hook, you got the good hook. Thank you, Jonathan Heights, and then go into the delivery, the meat of the situation.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that is it for this edition of Geared Up. Thank you so much for listening. Of course, you can catch John and I on YouTube. I'm at youtube.com/GearLive, and John is at youtube.com/John4Lakers. Feel free to head over and subscribe to our channels to stay up to date on all the latest tech. Speaking of subscribing, you can subscribe to Geared Up in your favorite podcast app if you haven't done so already. Just search Geared Up, that's 2 words, not one, in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Casts, Overcast, or really wherever you choose to listen. If you like what we do, please consider leaving us a rating and review. It really helps other people find the show. Geared Up is a Gear Live podcast, and you can see more from us at gearlive.com. Thank you so much for listening. For John Rettinger, I'm Andrew Edwards, and we'll catch you in the next episode.